Mike from around the world. Mike, are you there?
Pastor Paul Begley, how you doing this evening?
Doing great, Mike. Hang on, let's fix the sound here. Make sure we got you loud and clear for everybody.
Okay.
1 second here, and let's put you there. Are you doing all right, Mike?
Good, let's hope that signal holds up.
Oh yeah, please let the signal hold up, Mike. Okay, you still with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Mike, first thing of business, first of all, thank you for coming on the night before Thanksgiving.
No problem.
As a matter of fact, there are people out there that would like to know, does Mike from around the world have any turkey tips for us?
Turkey tips?
Yeah.
Take the plastic off before you cook it.
And that's it, huh? No, don't worry about the seasoning. That's it.
I actually did that one time, Pastor. Me and some of the guys, we cooked the turkey and forgot to take the plastic off, and it was shiny. After it was done, it all disappeared. And that was a long time ago, but and that was that happened in quarters, and that wasn't good. Yeah, it looked beautiful. It was a beautiful turkey, but it was a bit a bit sticky.
Folks, we got Mike from around the world with us tonight. We got a lot to talk about here. Mike, you've really stirred things up on the internet. There was a huge blog written about the May 12th, 2020 shall be a very telling date. And before we ask you about that, I do want to ask you about this. I mean, look, we've had the Albania earthquake, very powerful. They haven't had one in 40 years. And also this Arctic cyclone bomb that has hit here on this Thanksgiving weekend. Is there any reason for this type of climate change or climate emergency?
Oh boy, you know what? We're going to have some more of those. A deep freeze. I know this one's cold. I don't know what they're going to call the next one, but we have a development of, most are saying it'll be an average of about 20 degrees cooler than normal, and it's forming right now. These fluctuations are not just isolated to Earth. They had a problem with two of the probes on Mars. They couldn't communicate with one of the probes because some of the colder temperatures actually damaged two of the chips, I believe it was, on the probes. Now, these probes are set up to minus 300 degrees, I believe it is, but long-term exposure can really damage them. So we have a shifting. That's nothing more than a shifting effect. And what it means is that the concentration of the sun is very intense. With any intense concentration of a heat source, right? Outside of that heat source, you're going to have drastic temperature changes or fluctuation. So it's just like in the desert, if you're in the sunlight, it can be 90 to 110 degrees. In the shade, it can be 40 degrees, right? You can have that much of a fluctuation early in the morning or in the evening times, in the evening hours. And that's due to direct sunlight, right? And with those shaded areas. In our case, you have the Earth, which is tilting even more, greater than normal. There's an event, a double wobble of the Earth that is beginning, very subtly, but it's enough to shake up many of the weather patterns. Also, you have a tilt arrangement of our entire solar system, which is affecting how forces normally act upon it. There is a like curvature type event, which is also IR. So that means these weather conditions will no doubt increase exponentially. I don't really see it going down. I see it intensifying a lot, and those temperature fluctuations or swings are going to be quite noticeable. In fact, everything will be quite noticeable. And if you've noticed for the last at least 2 years, there's been it's so noticeable, it's normal now, right? Yeah. These events that we have are not shocking, they're normal, sad to say, because it is a trending line in effect, and because it is exponential in nature, meaning, somewhat exponential, meaning each year is about 3 times more intense than a year before. It used to be about 0.5%, 0.25% more. Now it's 3-4% or 3 or 4 times the intensity than before, based on trending, which means the trend line is going straight up, which means some of those extremes that people speculated about are about to go way off the charts. Now, it's just like a flame. Keep a flame in mind, right? A match by itself is no big deal. It's benign in nature. You can hit a match, it doesn't do anything. As soon as you get the temperature of that match hit, where all the ignitable material is, as soon as you get it to a certain temperature, it ignites in a reaction that will not reverse. It has to burn out. right? Just like wood catching on fire. It won't do anything next to a flame that has not directly heated up to a certain temperature. But once ignited, it doesn't easily go out, right? We're facing the same thing with these weather phenomena and the conditions of the earth. They're somewhat not noticeable now, right? Except for those who are watching. Sooner or later, there'll be an ignition point. And at this point, it's going to be a bad situation. Our infrastructure cannot handle some of the winds that are coming in 2020 either.
Hey, now, Mike, what's happened here when you talk about things are becoming so abnormal that they're becoming normal? We had the 3 Category 4 hurricanes that hit the United States back in 2017, the year of the solar eclipse, and they were all Category 4s. I mean, it was just insane. One of them had what was called, I think it was Hurricane Harvey, had what was called a rain bomb, where it rained 50-some inches and just kept pouring. A term that we'd never heard of before, rain bombs. And then we had this past summer, we had a hurricane bomb on land. Remember when that came and happened right inland? And then now we've got a Arctic bomb cyclone of snow. And listen, today, this morning at a little bit over 4 or 5 o'clock this morning, the wind blew so hard here at my house, it blew the back door open, just blew it wide open, and debris come flying in the kitchen, and it moved my grill, which weighs about 300 pounds and was sitting on wheels that were blocked. I mean, they were locked, so they couldn't roll on concrete. It shoved it about 15 feet on the patio, which would take a force of like 2 guys to do that. So there's strange, weird, I mean, you told us that there'd be these thunder, lightning storms, straight line winds, off the charts, weird weather. So you're saying this is just the beginning of it?
Yeah, some of the winds, just like today, some of the winds in the atmosphere up above 400 feet, right there at the cap of 400 feet, we're above 127 miles an hour today, with no storms in sight, right?
What?
There were vortices that carried wind down to the surface up to 88 miles an hour, vortices. People on the East Coast, they were reporting in, what they call them, leaf tornadoes or something like that, anyway. But the winds were so strong that they were actually taking people's doors off the hinges. That was today. Now, these phenomena normally happen where you have gusts of up to 26 miles an hour. And like I said before, this trending is going up. When I first met you guys and when I was first on air, I told you guys something that sounded unbelievable. I said we would have 120 plus miles an hour straight line winds. And that seemed so unbelievable at that time.
Right.
However, it's closely approaching those wind speeds. Now, that wind is necessary also to support great hail, right? Hail size and wind absolutely are charted out. To sustain 75-pound hail, you need 200 plus mile an hour winds, right? I believe the Bible. But I also believe that some of the gusts and some of the wind speeds that we're going to experience will be 125, 130 plus miles an hour. And before anybody thinks that's impossible, the trending of the wind, if somebody were to do the mathematics on the wind, the averages, starting from 2000 and I believe it 15 or somewhere around there, they'll see an unbelievable trend line, and it's following that line almost to the number. So we see some and our infrastructure cannot resist that type of winds. If we see winds that increase another 15 miles an hour without a certain type of build on people's roofs of their homes, they're going to face critical damage of their homes. I do believe that weather will largely be an enemy of mankind in this way. It'll be relentless. It'll be spontaneous. It's going to be unpredictable. And it will be, the average storm will really frighten the average individual. When forecasts come out, it's going to cause a lot of fear among people. And this buildup of fear, this buildup of unrest, it will eventually wear a person down to the point where they become somewhat desperate, because you think that we'd enter into a time where war would be one of the greatest things we'd face, right? No, not really. It will be the degrading conditions of which place we live, because you can't really, a house can't withstand wind speeds of 120 miles an hour if they were carried for 10 days. Just imagine that. Imagine the power goes out. How are they going to work on power lines with that type of wind? So these things are very real. They will increase. To what level they'll get at, I don't know, but I do know that they're going to go well over the point to where our infrastructure can handle it.
Well,
we just simply can't handle it.
Well, Mike, and this is very good information, and I know it's true because actually we can back it all up biblically. We can look at Isaiah. We know there's a pole shift coming. You talk about the tilting going on. We know that there's going to be, the earth's going to reel and rock like a drunken man. It's going to wobble. It's already happening. We know that we're going to see intense radiation. The sun's going to heat up to the point it's going to scorch men, and they're going to gnaw their tongues for pain because of it. We understand, and right now the radiation levels went up 18% the last 3 years on this earth. You said everything about straight line winds, everything, earthquakes, volcanoes, it keeps happening. So we know that it's in play. It is a climate emergency. It's not man-made, folks. It's the effects of the heavens shaking, and the statistics are there. Now, Mike, let's ask you a question. You threw out the May 12th date for us, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but I've gotten at least 100 emails in the last week by what does Mike mean by, it's going to be a telling date. Is it 5 waves of energy? Is there a wave coming that we pretty well know the date of that? Is it debris? Is it an asteroid? Is it something else? Can you elaborate a little bit on why May 12th is important? We got space probes out there. We get information. What do you mean?
Well, we're right now. We have some very complex issues, very complex things forming all over the place. These things are unavoidable. They will come without warning. But around in 2020, surrounding that date, it will be I'll just give you some support from some of the modeling. Some of the modeling puts if you want to say tipping point, close to that month. Now, this will happen before that month. But most of all, some of the extreme exotic things that we're just not used to experiencing will have happened. I believe it will stress nations big time around that date, and I believe that there's just too many things centering that period of time. Now, my date of May 12th, right, that's a two-part thing here. I'm really watching something prior to May 12th that may or might, the chances are, let's just say there could be a chance when May 12th comes, this is going to be a very different way we communicate. People may be worn down big time by that time, and it's not that far away. Things can move so fast. It can go from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour. Speaking of events and things, so quick and based on observations, what people are facing is 100% unavoidable. There is no escaping certain things, right? There is just no escape. Some of the events that we will entertain are of great magnitude, and they're so different from any common talk, which it just wouldn't fit the bill. It wouldn't prepare a person properly. In fact, when you're looking at something that is so massive, so enormous by way of what it will touch, there's really no specific thing you can talk about that would narrow it down to any one thing, because certain things bring on too much in the first place. It can literally bring on everything, right? And people are going to have to deal with a lot. They're going to have to deal with prophecy, things in prophecy, right before their faces. Lots of people will have to deal with lots of damage. They're going to have to entertain the idea that plenty may have perished. And these, when prophecy is good when you're distant from it, right? But when you begin to realize that there's no way around prophecy. That prophecy was never wrong. It was just, everybody can have their little advice, but there's one thing in prophecy that's consistent. That is the damage that comes with prophecy. That is the loss that comes with prophecy. And our lifestyles and everything else are going to be, prophecy is going to be altered. It'll be really altered. We may not have homes or something like that, large pieces, large continents. We may be living outside or something, right, from the damage. We're going to have flybys, more have you noticed that we've had flybys and they really can't say a word about some of the flybys, and there's no way to track the rest of them. So they say. The truth is, space is covered by optics all over the place, and but there's nothing you can do about it, right? There's absolutely nothing.
So, Mike,
they have good ideas. They have good ideas. That stuff's not going to work. It just totally won't work. They've tried that before, and it does not work. There are inbounds right now that they know about right now that are going to hit far before any specific dates beyond 2020, right? And there's nothing we can do about it. There's, it's left a chance. It's left a gravitational pull influence of planets, so on and so forth. What if an object comes in from nowhere and hits it? We had that happen this year. Something was about to hit the Earth. It was intercepted by something else that was flinging out somewhere else, and there was a collision, and it just messed up the trajectory of the one object. But if nothing was in the way of this one object, we would have lost North America. The entire North America would have been gone, right?
No, wait, whoa. Okay, so Mike, it sounds like there's a lot of near-Earth objects that we're entering into a debris field that we're already getting, and I know this, that a lot of them are barely missing us, okay? They're whizzing by us everywhere, and we're probably not being told every one that comes so scarcely close. So you're saying there was one that was on the way that had it not hit maybe the moon or some...
Another object hit it. If that other object did not hit this thing...
Okay, are you saying maybe another meteorite hit a major... Yes. And if it hadn't have done that, we would have lost North America?
Correct. Absolutely correct. Now, here's the not so good part. A lot of people say, well, it's a 1 out of a million chance we're going to get hit by something. No, you've got it backwards. It is a 1 in a million chance we will not be hit in the next 10 days. This is every 10 days. This is how people are out there, right? So, you really have to watch the language of quote-unquote experts. Of course, they're not going to tell anybody the truth. That would upset the common individual based on the science that they believe.
Right.
But the truth is, every 10 days, there is a slim chance we're not going to get hit. It's not the other way around. They speak as though somehow, by chance, we are sustained. We are not sustained. I've seen too many things to even believe that we're sustained by chance.
Are we using any of our own technology to nudge these away or shoot these down?
Well, they've tried that. The only thing that saved our skins are the other objects that are whizzing in all this directions in their space. And in this case, this thing ran into a cluster of other objects. There were a couple of cases where some of the common meteor showers had some large objects in there. And if it were not for our debris field, some of the debris belts that are out there, we're talking about more than the belts people are aware of, right? Because they're looking at a ring. We're talking about a spherical motion of objects. We're like shielded with many rocks. But if it weren't for these things, we would not be here by now, right? Yeah. We just wouldn't. Now here we have a problem though with the interjection of another influence, right? That protective layer of rocks, think of it like we're inside of a basketball, right? And the basketball itself is made up of fast-moving objects, right? With a gravitational pull externally of this magnitude, it's pulling all of them. It's pulling our shield down to one specific, to a type of oblong ring. Is what it's doing. It's pulling the shield down. Well, it just so happens a lot of these objects come from the south. right?
Right.
The other half of these objects are coming from the north. They normally exit out through the north, but somehow through our travels, we're facing the opposite scenario. A lot of these objects will begin to come in through the north.
You think that's why Jesus, do you think that's why Jesus said, look, there's going to be great woes, great sorrow that's going to come upon the land, famines, pestilence, earthquakes, volcanoes, all these different things, but because he knew there's going to be great woes, great sorrow like we've never seen in ever before. It's because the planet's going to be hit. It's going to be inundated with direct hits from asteroids, meteorites, pieces of comets, that kind of thing. It's just, there's no way out of this, what you're saying.
Yeah, numerous times from the north. This phenomena, whatever's pulling down that protective layer that we've had for so long, it is powerful. It's drawing everything down to a certain type of orbit, which leaves a big gaping hole in our protective layer. Things will come through there. If you haven't noticed, there's been a lot of objects that have been coming in specifically from that direction that are coming closer and closer to our area of operations, to the Earth. Yeah. Now, this pulling of these objects down, right, is causing some of the smaller objects to trail. If something comes in, and let's just say it just skips over top and hits some of the smaller objects, they're going to be slammed right into the earth. So we will entertain people being frightened on these common meteor showers. When they announced we're going to have the Leonid meteor shower and all this, that, and the other. Yes. That's not going to be a fun thing shortly. That will not be a fun thing, because everybody will stay awake at night wondering if their house is going to get hit. If something is going to hit their house from baseball-sized objects, which will begin pretty big. They'll begin large objects.
You said that.
Being baseball-sized objects, they will do damage. This is going to happen frequently. During the daytime and the nighttime. There's nothing anybody can do about that.
Okay, they were scrambling you there, Mike, for a minute, but you told us this 6 years ago, that soon there'd be these small pebbles. We'd first see the dust, then we would see the pebbles, and then eventually they would be baseball-sized brimstone, fire. Brimstone, meteorite pieces, and there'll be no denying it after a while. And like you said, it's coming soon. Are you saying that 2020 is the year of the awakening of this whole thing?
Yeah, I think 2020 is going to be a woe. More than an awakening. I think we've had the awakening, right? I believe that this is going from people realizing we could be in trouble to we are in trouble. Life is going to become quite uncertain. Right now, people have a lot of comfort in their lives, the populace does, and they're kind of comforted that they're going to be around tomorrow. The days will become quite uncertain, and they will increase in their uncertainty, and then there will be no more. A lot of people won't have to worry about skeptics, but they will have to worry about scoffing in this manner, because they will point to a person who is in distress and maybe their home is gone, and they will point to that person and says, where's your God now? Or where's Christ? I thought Christ was coming to get you, right?
Right.
Which means, and that prophecy is laid out, that's in the Bible a lot.
Oh, I know.
Which kind of breaks my heart a little bit, because if it's in prophecy, right, that means we were not truly ready. That means all of us didn't truly take this seriously.
You're right, Mike. You are right. I mean, they call us doom and gloomers. I mean, that Paul Begley with his doom and his gloom, because we speak of the prophetic things that are going to happen, and we know they're going to happen. I believe the Bible 150%, okay, 1,000%. So I know the things that the Lord has spoken will come to pass. And you tell people every day, you say, I'm telling you it's going to start, it's going to happen. We're already starting to see things. But people only see what they want to see. But when it starts to fall, when you can't deny, then they will turn and say, what's going on? I didn't know this was going to happen. Why didn't nobody tell us? Well, the sad thing is, we got people running around talking about the end times, but they're not telling you what's going on. They're just giving you a fairy tale, a pipe dream. Sit on the back porch, wait on the rapture to be okay. No, you better understand that there's some things that we have to endure that the Bible plainly says we will. We can't just ignore it. And we got to be about the Father's business. But before I get preaching here, let's go back to the information, I think, first that Mike is laying out here. I don't want to get too carried away. Mike, okay, 2020. Big deal. Big year, I'm hearing. A total different thing than just waves of energy. You're talking about rocks are falling. You're talking about brimstone and a lot of different, the core of the earth, the magma's moving. Mike, tell us about that.
Yeah, it is. I think it should be obvious to a lot of people. You know, we talked about Australia not too long ago, right? And that continent is hot. And they are, just like we said, they're having an issue out to sea. These things will continue to increase. And again, when people see it, when they have to endure it, when they're living in those areas and they're in distress by it, I can only hope that they were somewhat mentally prepared to understand that these things were going to unfold in the first place. Of course, I know that many people won't. That's just like the sky, Pastor Paul. A lot of people every day, instead of they're looking for the big thing to happen. Here's what they don't realize. The earth right now is emitting more gamma rays, right? This type of emission from the core of the earth is going to cause biological sickness within people. And as I said before, it's going to affect the animals. Animals are quite robust, but they will become irritated, aggravated. They'll do things outside of their own nature with these fluctuations. And then we have, with any change in the core of the earth, with the magma moving, we're going to have magnetosphere disruptions, which means the way we think and we perceive things is going to change. And we will entertain massive outages. They'll be sporadic at first. Outages of GPS, that means with your cell phones, that means with drones and every other device that utilizes GPS. We're going to have sporadic outages of these things, to the point where most of these cars are dependent upon GPS because of the robustness of the satellite system. But our magnetosphere is starting to do something no one anticipated. And I've never seen it before. I'm not even aware of this in electronics, but it's doing it. Magnetics is that magnetic field is polarized. Well, how can something change about 50 times in 2 seconds as far as its polarization is concerned? The current changes in the atmosphere with that, which causes a normally controlled ionic flow, right, that we're all used to, it causes positive ions to be emitted from the atmosphere. And if anybody is aware of what positive ions can do when they're emitted from the atmosphere, that's a problem. That's a severe problem.
Mike, we had another chemical plant explosion this morning in Texas. You told us 5 years ago we would start seeing chemical plants exploding everywhere. 2 years ago, we had a lot of them. They were in China, they were in Texas, they were all over the world. And then you just said, maybe a month ago, you said, Paul, get ready again. We're going to start seeing a lot of chemical explosions because the chemicals are going to start reacting differently than normal. They'll combustion, or they're going to mix differently. Is that what we've seen here in Texas? I don't know the reason for the explosion, but are we going to see more and more of these chemicals? They don't even know why they exploded. They're stunned right now. Are we going to see more of this, Mike?
December 10th is a pulse. There's a pulse track on December 10th. When these particles come in like that, they knock the nuclei out of the atom, which changes what that substance is. So take gasoline, for instance. If the nuclei is knocked out of that substance, of each particle in that substance, well, it's no longer gasoline. It's something else. If something is maintained, they often separate chemicals so they won't combust, and they recombine them on site so they can combust. But if the nuclei is knocked out, you have a chemical change in either one of those two, and the only thing that kept them from being combustible was the removal of something. Well, with that nuclei changing or being knocked out of too many of those particles inside, it can actually change the chemistry of gasoline, of oils, of gases, and everything else. And if that is the case, like on August 17th, when I told you that date, that same day, there was a fluctuation.
Yeah, there was. You told us.
There were chemical explosions and everything else because the nuclei and those otherwise benign materials became explosive, and they did ignite. Now, this same thing could happen December 10th and any day thereafter. So, yeah, can I do that? You better believe it. Has it done it? It's done it many times before. They've also encountered other things that have exploded in space, tracked it. The same day it arrived to Earth, you had chemical explosions out of the blue. Will it affect nuclear power plants? This time, it probably will.
Yeah.
It most likely will affect nuclear power plants this time around, because this time we'll have penetration. Last time, the pulse was abnormal, but not like this one. It was nowhere near like this one. This one is very different. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of quite a few, of a long durational event. So these are conditions we're going to have to get used to. I'm sure that hardly anybody will understand. But one of my greatest worries is this: because of the instability of the world right now in the Middle East, if some munitions or an area explodes, a military area, somebody's going to blame that on somebody else, and then we're going to have a worse problem than we have right now.
Because you're saying it's not going to be a war or a bombing or an airstrike, but just going to be munitions blowing up because of the chemical change, the manipulation, the nuclei falling out, and let me just say, Mike, you are right. This happened. You called it for sure on August 17, 2017, I believe it was, and now I'm going to say December 10th, you're drawing this line in the sand then and abouts, that there's going to be some definite plant explosions and chemical explosion, that kind of thing. You're very concerned about it because you know it's the pressure, the inbound chemical makeup, the waves of energy, it's going to the shifting, the transformation within the chemicals. We're going to see it again. So, Mike, let me ask you a question. So good. I mean, it's good to know this so that we can prepare people. So if you call it a pulse, so it must be like not a full wave, but a pulse of energy coming from that binary system that's going to definitely affect the chemical makeup of some of these chemical plants or even munitions.
Yeah, that's a huge worry in the Middle East. Say, for instance, a couple of trucks on a convoy or something like that, they explode, or a missile. That is, it's not triggered or anything. The chemistry changes inside of that missile, and they go off. They're going to blame it on somebody. And because because of the tensions in the Middle East, it's already a pressure cooker tonight. It really is a pressure cooker. One false move in the Middle East, and there will be brigades going at each other tonight. Not tomorrow, but tonight. That could actually happen tonight. But the situation is incredibly tender. It is not to mention the political happenings around the tenderness of the Middle East right now, because you have coalitions breaking up. You have, if just like Benjamin Netanyahu, if somehow he does not hold that position, Pastor Paul, do you not realize that because of Benjamin Netanyahu, we've not gone to war?
Yes, I do know that. He's holding it back. He's holding it back.
He really is. And if he's gone with a removal, if he is gone, it's over. I'm telling you now, it's over. It's going to be over. I don't think that people understand the intensity of those who dwell in the Middle East. They don't just talk the talk, and Benjamin Netanyahu has done some severe negotiating to keep people alive. If he's missing, there's no voice of reason left. The other folks, they're ready right now tonight to do something. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, they're calling for some quite large vengeful actions that take place tonight. If Hamas launched a rocket without Benjamin Netanyahu, there would be 10 to 20,000 people dead hours after they launch a rocket. So
you are right.
A retaliation of that magnitude. These people in power that could step up. If Benjamin Netanyahu is not there, they are not nice. They don't care about consequences. They hate opposition. Let's put it that way. They are sworn haters of the opposition, and they will tear down everything that's built up, and we all know what that sparks.
Folks, the Mike around the world with us tonight. He's being very plain, very frank, and very honest with us, and I really, really, really appreciate it, and our audience totally appreciates it, because we've been sugar-coated, we've been pampered, we've been, rocked to sleep too long. The realization's true. As bad as everybody hates Netanyahu, even here in America, you got people hating on the guy, and they don't even know why they hate him. If Benny Gantz is in position, he pulls the trigger so fast your head would spin. And it's not just him, but several. And Mike's right. There's several. They're ready because they're tired of the rockets flying in their country. They're tired of the hatred. They're tired of the threats. And these guys feel like the only thing to do is cut off the head of the snake. This is a very serious time we're in, but we need to pray like never before. And like Mike said, you'd think war would be the biggest problem we got. It's not. It's the incoming debris. It's the shaking of the heavens. It's the 5 waves of energy, the pulses. It's the heavens. It's everything flying at us. It's the end of time, really, coming racing toward us now. And people are not ready, Mike. They're not ready. Mike, what would be, going into this Thanksgiving weekend? Like you said, there could be massive war tonight. It's not out of the realm of possibility at all. It probably keeps you up at night as you're working in the field you're in, wondering what's going to be the next move and who's going to make it.
Well, that requires vigilance. I would ask that people they don't lose themselves by going down memory lane, but understand their role as a Christian among their families. A lot of people have issue with their families this time of year that are Christians. Well, I need, just let me remind everybody that God made you the believer of your family. The way you believe in Christ, right, is the way you believe. He made you that person for the rest of them, right? Don't look at that situation as them being against you. Look at the situation as God putting you right there where He wants you at this time. So, I would just ask for people, don't find yourself being drawn into conversations that are not
productive,
that are not productive, or any of those things. But rather remember, the Lord, you're not there by accident. The Lord placed you in that family.
Love.
If you're adopted, but He put you in that family, and you believe in Christ the way you do for a reason. It is a reason for that. I would just ask that people, they take note of that.
Yes, and I think you're right. That take opportunity to show love. Take opportunity to use when the door opens to speak about Christ and speak about the joy and speak about the great hope we have in Him, and without being drawn into the confrontations and the different things that people fall out over. Don't let that temptation come. Sidestep it. Wait for that opportunity to show that love and compassion and care about your fellow family member or friend. I think this is great advice you're giving, Mike. It's one we need to really go in, pray about it, going into the family gatherings, and let that light shine. This might be the last time some family members ever see that light, and you're the one that's going to shine it. Mike, I appreciate you coming on and being with us. This is one of the most powerful, I thought last week's show was, but this is very eye-opening. You helped us understand why May 12th, 2020 is so important, and now December 10th, and so it's going to keep our eyes wide open. I'm thinking about next Thursday, what day that is. I don't even know. Brock, do we have a date on that? Is that December what? 4th? What is that date? I don't have a calendar in front of me.
Next Thursday is the 5th.
Okay, can you come on next Thursday? It'll be a few days before the 10th. All right.
Yeah, we're good to go.
Okay. Next Thursday night at 10 o'clock, Mike from the world will be with us. We'll be closing in on that December 10th. We can get some more ideas, and we'll be watching the next week to see anything going on. It seems like it's happening daily now.
Okay. Now, if there's fighting in the Middle East, unexpected fighting in the Middle East, I'll probably be about 20 minutes or 30 minutes late Thursday, December 5th.
Okay, that'll be okay. Yeah. We'll wait on you.
You'll know it. Yes.
We'll just wait on you. We'll know it. We'll hang in there, and we'll know when you come. We'll just go a little longer that night. That's okay.
Sounds good to me, Pastor. Okay. Sounds good to me.
All right. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to bless us and talk about these things, Mike. It's very important, and we appreciate it greatly.
Well, God bless you, Pastor, and your family. God bless.
God bless. Have a great Thanksgiving. All right, folks, there you have it. It's Mike from around the world.